चतुर्विधा श्री भगवत प्रसादा स्वाद्वन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्त संगान् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दम्. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 types of delicious food, that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, Param Pujya Guruji. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Vyasam Vasishthanaptaram Shakti पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकतातं तपोनिधिं व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः अविकाराय शुद्धाय नित्याय परमात्मने सदैकरूपरूपाय विष्णवे सर्वजिष्णवे यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण जन्मसंसारबन्धनात् विमुच्यते नमस्तस्मै विष्णवे प्रभविष्णवे शान्ताकारं भुजगशयनं पद्मनाभं सुरेशं विश्वाधारं गगनसदृशं मेघवर्णं शुभांगं लक्ष्मीकान्तं कमलनयनं योगिहृद्ध्यानगम्यं वन्दे विष्णुं भवभयहरं सर्वलोकैकनाथम् ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम श्री कृष्ण परमात्मने नमः. राम रामाय शान्तारामाय सद्गुरु रामाय शान्तारामाय दय गुरु रामाय शान्तारामाय जय गुरु रामाय शांतारामाय राम राम. बोलो सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. बोलो राधा रानी अरुणामाई की जय. चरण स्पर्श to Param Pujya Guruji. चरण स्पर्श to all Devis and Mahatmas. Jai Shri Krishna Guruji.
Jai Shri Krishna Guruji.
Discourse 3. A brief survey of the Lord's other exploits. Uddhava continued. Then, in order to afford delight to his parents Vasudeva and Devaki, the Lord returned to the city of Mathura, accompanied by Baladeva, his elder half-brother, and knocking down Kamsa, the leader of his enemies, from his high seat and killing him, dragged his lifeless body along on the ground. Verse 2. Having learnt the Vedas along with the sciences subsidiary to the same, that is grammar, astronomy, phonetics, prosody, etymology, and kalpa, or the science dealing with the ritual, and laying down rules for ceremonial and sacrificial acts, from Sandipani, his preceptor, who recited them to him, but once he restored to him his dead son by way of the preceptor's fee after ripping up the belly of the demon Panchajanya and recovering him from Yama's abode. Verse number 3. Trampling on those, King Shishupala and his associates Jarasandha and others, that had been invited on behalf of Princess Rukmini, the daughter of King Bhishmaka of the Vidarbhas, by her comeliness that vied with goddess Lakshmi's, or by her elder brother Rukmi, the first two syllables of whose name were identical with the corresponding syllables of her own name, and who stood gazing. The Lord carried her away with the intention of marrying her by mutual consent, knowing her as a part manifestation of Goddess Lakshmi herself, and as one who had dedicated herself to him, to be his own share, even as Suparna or Garuda carried away the jar containing nectar that had been won by him. Verse number 4. Having synchronously tamed as many as 7 bulls whose nostrils had not been bored through, he married Princess Satya, the daughter of King Nagnajit, at an assembly of suitors called for the election of a husband by the princess. But when the other assembled princes, who were foolish enough to retain a passion for her, even though their pride had been curbed by his superhuman feat, took up arms to contend with him, he disposed of them with his own divine weapons, himself remaining unscathed. Verse number 5. Like a hen-pecked husband, the Almighty Lord took away from Indra's paradise the celestial tree of Parijata for his favorite consort Satyabhama, in order to please her, and on this account Indra, the wielder of a thunderbolt, blind with rage, pursued him with his bodyguards consisting of the 49 wind gods. For Indra is indeed a toy in the hand of his wives. Seeing her son, the demon Naraka, who seemed to swallow the sky with his gigantic body, killed by the Lord's discus, Sudarshana, Goddess Earth prayed to him for mercy when the Lord bestowed on the deceased son, Bhagadatta, the portion of his kingdom that had not been annexed, and entered the gymnasium in Naraka's palace. Seeing Sri Hari, Sri Krishna, the befriender of the afflicted, the princesses, numbering not less than 16,000, that had been kidnapped and imprisoned there by Naraka, the son of Goddess Earth, sprang on their feet and at once accepted him as their husband through glances that betrayed their excessive joy, bashfulness, and love. Verse number 8. Having assumed by his wonderful divine potency, Yogamaya, an equal number of forms suited to those girls, the Lord accepted their hand with due ceremony at one and the same hour, though in different palaces. In order to extend the sphere of his Leela or playful activity, he begot 10 sons through each of them, sons that were his own images in every respect. When Kalyavana, Jarasandha, the king of Magadha, Shalva, and others besieged the city of Mathura with their armies, he took the initiative himself and had them killed by his people, Muchukunda, Bhima, and others, lending to them his own divine power. Verse 11. Of the demons, Sambara, Bana, Mura, and Balvala, Dvividha, the monkey chief, and other warriors like Dantavaktra, some he disposed of himself, while others he caused to be dispatched by Balarama, Pradyumna, and so on. Verse 12. Thereafter he brought about the destruction of monarchs who had joined the sides of your nephews, the sons of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, and who made the entire globe rock as they marched to Kurukshetra, the scene of the Mahabharata war, with their armies. Verse 13. Nay, he did not rejoice, was not satisfied, even when he saw Suyodhana, and a euphemism for Duryodhana, with his satellites lying prostrate on the battlefield, his thighs broken by a blow from Bhima's mace. Suyodhana, who had lost his fortune as well as his life as an outcome of the wicked counsel of Karna, Dushasana, his younger brother, and Shakuni, the son of Subala. Verse 14. He said to himself, even though the earth has been relieved of a huge burden, through the destruction of armies with a total strength of 18 Akshauhinis at the hands of Acharya Drona, Bhishma, it is yet negligible when compared to the irresistible might of the Yadus, my own kinsmen and protégés, still flourishing under the protection of my part manifestations, Pradyumna and others. Drunk with wine, when they quarrel among themselves, their eyes suffused with blood, that will be the only way of exterminating them and no other. As a matter of fact, they will disappear as soon as I get ready to depart for my eternal abode. Verse 16. Pondering thus, the Lord securely placed King Yudhishthira, the son of Dharma, on his ancestral throne and brought delight to his near and dear ones by showing them the way of the righteous by his own example. Verse 17. The seed of Puru's line that was duly planted in the shape of Parikshit in the womb of Uttara by Abhimanyu, Arjuna's son through Subhadra, Sri Krishna's own sister, and was later torn up by the missile Brahmastra, discharged by Ashwatthama, the son of Drona, and was eventually preserved by the Lord. Verse 18. The Almighty Lord persuaded Yudhishthira to perform no less than 3 Ashwamedhas, horse sacrifices, and the emperor too, devoted as he was to Sri Krishna, led a happy life, protecting the earth with the help of his younger brothers Bhima and others. Verse 19. The Lord, as well, who is the soul of the universe, enjoyed the pleasures of life at Dwaraka, keeping to the path chalked out by the Vedas and the Smritis and remaining unattached to those pleasures in conformity with the spirit of Sankhya Yoga, according to which it is matter in the form of senses that reacts on matter in the form of their objects, the spirit ever remaining aloof as a witness. Verse number 20 to 21, delighting this as well as the other world heaven and the Yadus in particular by his endearing smiles and loving glances, his words sweet as nectar, his irreproachable conduct, and his person, which was the abode of all charm and splendor, he revelled by night with his consorts, affording them the pleasure of his company and showing them momentary affection. Verse 22. As he thus enjoyed life for many years, he felt an aversion for the performance of religious duties binding on a householder and conducive to the pleasures of sense. What man then, who is the power of providence, who is in the power of providence, and who seeks to please Sri Krishna, the master of yogas, through the practice of devotion, would set his heart on the pleasures of sense which are in the gift of providence? Verse 24. Once, when the youths of the Yadus and Bhojas were playing in the city of Dwaraka, they offended some sages who, in their turn, pronounced a curse on the boys, knowing as they did the intention of the Lord, who was bent upon the destruction of the Yadus. Verse 25. Some months after that incident, the Vrishnis, Bhojas, Andhakas, and others drove in their chariots to Prabhasa, a sacred spot on the seaside, with great joy, deluded as they were by the will of Sri Krishna. Having bathed there and propitiated the mains, gods, and rishis by offering them handfuls of water taken from that place, they gifted cows possessing many good qualities to the Brahmanas. They further gave away to them gold, silver, beds, wearing apparel, deerskin, blankets, palanquins, chariots, elephants, unmarried girls, plots of land as a means of subsistence, and foods containing a variety of tastes, in a spirit of dedication to the Lord. And then those valiant men who lived for the sake of cows and the Brahmanas alone bowed to them with their heads touching the ground. Thus ends the third discourse in Book 3, consisting of a dialogue between Vidura and Uddhava of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita.
The whole thing is a narration in the narration, the how these things have taken place and everything like that. And we get the lessons when the time is against us, like time was against for these Yadavas and also Kuru people, all of them. So they're whatever the wrong things they have been doing all over all the time, and when the power, money, and wealth, and also strength of body, it all comes. All these things will come at one time, and then self-destruction takes place. Whenever these things, because all purpose of all these things is God realization, and also God realization in a way where you also make others also realize the Lord. In other words, you live a very simple life and you advise everyone to live simple life, like how Vidura lived. He advises Duryodhana, but he doesn't care. So, like that, when the people do not care, modern people, then they are meant for destruction only. Okay. When we read these things, and if people feel that this is all a waste of time, but then their life will be wasted. Their life will be wasted, and this year, this century, or this your being alive now is a waste. See? Because you have not gone into the details of these things at all, and you simply make a comment. Yeah. Oh, this is all hocus pocus like that. Or this is all that time, now the time. Now we have grown far, lot of miles have been covered, lot of distance has been covered. That was all ancient. Yes, that was all ancient, and that was the perfect one. What you have done is you have gone into the bottom of the, the bottom of the river, or you know, the well, where there is only muck. Muck is there. Kitchen is there. That's it. See, we have not understood, and we are not trying nothing to lead a noble life, a life helping people. So many people are poor. Yeah, why not? Why not help as much as possible? So many things we can do. See, by reading and recollecting, we have to take lessons from these. Not just read and then we want to read the next book, we want to read another book, we want to read another story. Array, we first act on this, and that is this is why they say take tattva. There is only one tattva, one tattva principle, one tattva, one philosophy, one principle. There is only one eka. Eka tattva nama. What is that tattva? Nama. Chanting name. That is the thing. God's name. That is the tattva. Eka tattva nama. Dharimana. You keep it firmly in your mind, he says. Harichi karuna yelatani. Hari. So if you keep on chanting it all the time, Hari will be full of karuna. And he will then take care of you. Te Rama Sope Rama Krishna Govinda. It is such a simple Baba. Te Rama Sope. That name is so simple. Te Rama Sope Rama or Krishna or Govinda. Any name, very simple it is. Rama, Krishna, Govinda. You are reading mighty, mighty books without chanting. You are reading mighty, mighty books without giving, without living a chaste life. You are still in the world, firmly in the world of our relatives, children, this one, that one, neighbors, all this. Unless everyone is in this field, there is no point in collect, being with them. It's a waste of time. It's a total waste of time. That means we have not understood that one. We are reading books, we are we are repeating it, but we are not acting on that. We imagine that we are acting. If we read 2 pages, we will think that we are doing a great thing. No, that is your action. What is it you want to change from your life? Did you ever thought of it? Yeah? Did this is the thing. What you want to change in your life? Did you do that? Do you want to do that? You know, you are holding on to the wealth. You are holding on to the so many other things. Okay? Do something. Do something which can take you away from that. And then you want to again protect your children. And they are grown up. They are grown up. They are either working, they are, and the grandchildren are also there. And you are worried about your children and grandchildren again. See? Don't you know this is a myth? It's a myth. You have had this grandchildren and children billions of times or trillions of times, never ending grandchildren. That much you have had in trillions of janmas. Brahma's one life, go through that. Brahma's one life on the purpose of 10th chapter, 16th sloka almost, I think. Yeah, 10th or 8th chapter, whatever. 16th, 16 sloka onwards, you find that many lives we have wasted. So now we got a bakshis, we got a gift, super gift we have got, this life and this knowledge. This knowledge. Won't you like to practice this? No, we'll read another book and another book we'll find. How many books are there like this? You want to read? You want to keep on reading? Huh? And where is your action? Okay, simultaneously do action. No? Simultaneously do action by donating. Yeah, we will definitely donate one of these days. See? One of these days. Time and tide waits or none. They don't wait for anyone. Time and tide waits for none. So start doing action. So big organization, big this thing. If you think that gives you this one, yeah, go and check it, and you will learn something from it. Okay? So it is that is why he says Eka Tattva Naha. The entire philosophy, entire thing is only very simple. Kenama Soteri. Very simple it is. What is it? Eka Tattva. There is only one principle. And that's the principle is simple. Dradaveri Mana, he said, keep that mind in your mind and chanting. Start chanting with the Lord. So this is it. Okay. Bhagavata, we have to get immersed into the Bhagavata and respect it and read it again and again. That's the thing. Okay. There is no point in saying we completed this book, we completed that book. Where what is it that we are doing now? So we will be reading another book. My God. He says one sentence, half sentence he is saying. Whole principle is a half sentence. That's all now. And then he says, it is so very simple. What do you have to do? To chant, no? And get immersed into that. Get immersed into that and forget everything. Don't get involved with any other thing. Don't get it. Okay? इधर भटकने का नहीं. Don't try to do the Buddha of other people. You first get your Buddha first. Sit there and see the Lord. That's all. Over to you, Janki.
Book 3, Discourse 4, as directed by Uddhava, Vidura calls on the sage Maitreya. Uddhava continued, then, after taking their meals with the permission of those Brahmanas, they drank wine and, having been deprived of their wits by tipsiness, cut one another to the quick by hurling abuses. This is the Yadavas. Their intellect having been perverted due to the inebriating effect of wine, by sunset they began fighting to death among themselves, like bamboos rubbing against one another. Verse number 3, beholding the ways of his own Maya, deluding potency, the Lord sipped the water from the Saraswati and sat down at the foot of a peepal tree near its bank. Verse number 4, before this, when the Lord, who relieves the agony of those who resort to him for protection, made up his mind to exterminate his race, he told me, even at Dwaraka, to proceed to Badrivana, the spot where the divine sages Nara and Narayana still practice their austere penance. Verse number 5. Although, O vanquisher of foes, I was aware of his intentions, I nevertheless went after him, unable to bear separation from his feet. Looking for my beloved Lord, I beheld him, the abode of all splendor, seated all alone on the bank of the Saraswati, although, as a matter of fact, he is shelterless, being the shelter of all. Verse 7, possessed of a brilliant swarthy form which is all sattva or purity, free from a mixture of rajas or passion, with reddish yet most gentle eyes, he could be easily distinguished by his forearms and the yellow silk on his person. Placing his lotus like right foot on his left thigh, he was reclining against a young Ashwatha peepal tree and was full of joy, even though he had renounced the pleasures of sense. Verse 9, meandering through the various worlds, there came by chance at that moment the enlightened sage Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a loving friend and fellow student of the sage Dvaipayana or Vedavyasa. While that devoted sage stood listening with rapt attention, his head bent low in the ecstasy of delight and emotion, Lord Sri Krishna, the bestower of liberation, spoke to me as follows, refreshing me by his endearing smiles and affectionate glances. The Lord said, dwelling within you, I know the desire of your heart and proceed to confer on you that which is difficult for others to attain. In your previous incarnation, when you were a Vasu, O Uddhava, you worshipped me in the sacrifice jointly performed by the Prajapatis, the lords of created beings, and the Vasus, with the sole object of attaining me. Verse 12. The present is certainly your last incarnation, O saintly Uddhava, since you have earned my grace in this life. You are indeed fortunate in having seen me on this secluded spot by virtue of your unalloyed devotion at a time when I am about to leave this mortal world and return to my eternal abode. I am going to impart to you that supreme wisdom, revealing my glory, which the sages call by the name of Bhagavata, and which I taught to Brahma the unborn, who was seated on the lotus that had sprung from my navel in a former cycle called the Padmakalpa at the dawn of creation. Thus politely addressed by the Lord and a recipient of his constant favor, I returned in faltering accents with joined palms the hair on my body standing erect through affection, and tears flowing from my eyes. Verse 15. Which on earth of the four objects of human pursuit, my Lord, is difficult to attain for those who are devoted to your lotus feet? Yet, O perfect one, I crave for none of these, keen as I am to worship your lotus feet. Which on
Yeah.
earth of the four objects of human pursuit, my Lord, is difficult to attain for those who are devoted to your lotus feet? Yet, O perfect one, I crave for none of these, keen as I am to worship your lotus feet.
Mm. Yeah.
Verse 16. That you should resort to action, though actionless, should be born, though devoid of birth, should take to your heels for fear of the enemy and seek shelter in a fortress, even though being the destroyer of all, and should take to wife over 10,000 damsels, though delighting in your own blissful self, puzzles the mind even of the knowing.
Yeah.
Verse 17. That you, whose knowledge is unimpeded, uninterrupted, and ever free from doubt and error, and who are ever awake, should call me in your deliberations and consult me as an ignorant man would do, perplexes our mind as it were, O glorious Lord. Pray, instruct us, my Master, in that supreme and integral wisdom which unfolds the mystery of your being and which you taught to Brahma, in case it is fit to be received by us, so that we may easily get over the sorrows of mundane existence. Verse 19. When I submitted to him in these words what was uppermost in my mind, the Supreme Lord with lotus like eyes revealed to me his transcendent character. Verse 20. Having thus learnt from my worshipful Guru, Sri Krishna, the way of realizing God who is the only truth, and bowing to the Lord's feet, I went round him clockwise as a mark of reverence and came away to this place distressed at heart due to separation from him, delighted by his sight, but now afflicted by separation from him, O Vidura. I shall proceed to the sacred spot of Badrikashrama, his favorite retreat where the glorious Narayana and the worshipful sage Nara are engaged in peaceful yet austere penance, extending over a long period, a whole kalpa, for the good of the world. Verse number 23. Sri Shuka continued, the enlightened Vidura, assuaged by force of wisdom the grief that had burst forth in his heart when he heard the unbearable news about the death of his near and dear ones. When that great devotee, Uddhava, the chief among the servants of Lord Sri Krishna, was about to depart for Badrikashrama, Vidura, the foremost among the Kauravas, spoke to him out of love as follows. Vidura said, be pleased to impart to us the supreme wisdom which unfolds the secret of the Lord's own essential nature, and which the divine Sri Krishna, the master of yoga, taught to you. For the devotees of Lord Vishnu move about in the world only in order to accomplish the object of their servants. Verse number 26, Uddhava replied, for the knowledge of that truth you should wait upon the sage Maitreya, son of Kusharu, who was personally instructed in this behalf by the Lord in my presence while he was about to leave this mortal world. 27. Sri Shuka continued, relieved of his great agony of separation from the Lord by the nectar like talk that he thus had with Vidura on the virtues of Lord Sri Krishna, the soul of the universe. Uddhava, the son of Upagu, pleased that passed that night as if it were a moment on the bank of the Yamuna, yeah, the younger sister of god Yama, and departed thence early next morning. Verse 28. The king asked, when even the topmost generals of the Kar warriors among the Vrishnis and Bhojas had met their end as a result of the imprecation pronounced by the sages. Nay, when Sri Hari, Sri Krishna himself, the supreme ruler even of the three lords of the universe, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, had to leave his body in the eyes of the world, how is it that Uddhava alone, the foremost of those generals, survived? Sri Shuka replied, verse number 29. When Sri Krishna, whose desire never remains unfulfilled, and exterminated his own race through the instrumentality of death, who appeared in the shape of the Brahmana's execration, and when he was about to cast off his body in the eyes of the world, he reflected thus. Verse 30. Now then, now when I shall have departed from this world, Uddhava alone, the foremost among those who have attained self realization, is really qualified to receive the knowledge concerning me. Uddhava is in no wise inferior to me, inasmuch as he has mastered his self and is never perturbed by the objects of sense. So let him remain on earth, imparting to the world the knowledge regarding me.
Yeah.
Verse 32. Instructed thus by Sri Krishna, the preceptor of the three worlds and the source of the Vedas, Uddhava betook himself to Badrikashrama and adored Sri Hari Sri Krishna through abstract meditation. 33 to 35. When Vidura heard from Uddhava an account of the praiseworthy doings of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Spirit, who had assumed a human semblance as a mere sport, as well as of the way in which he had quitted his body, which was such as strengthened the resolution of the resolute and was something too hard to accomplish for those who have a feeble mind and therefore as good as beasts. And when, O Parikshit, the foremost among the Kurus, he remembered that Sri Krishna had thought of him at the time of his departure, he was overwhelmed with emotion and wept on parting with that great devotee of the Lord. Verse 36. Leaving the bank of the Kalindi Yamuna, the enlightened Vidura, the foremost of the Bharatas, reached in a few days the bank of the heavenly river Ganga, where the sage Maitreya, son of Mitra, was. Thus ends the fourth discourse in Book 3, consisting of a dialogue between Vidura and Uddhava of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita.
See, he says Uddhava is equal to him, he says, and Uddhava need to be there so that it's as good as Lord Krishna being there, you know. So this is the thing that when you are totally with the Lord, the situation changes. You become you become equal to him, as he says. Not that you feel that you are equal. See, nobody feels or anything like that. But one who doesn't feel and one who remains totally with the Lord, such a person will be accepted by the Lord as for his work. And that work is so that he can tell all these things, narrate narrate what has all happened, and in proper perspective, without anything, uh, without prejudices, word to word, uh, thought to thought. you know. So that is the quality he indicated with the O to Janaki.
Yes, Guruji. Discourse number 5. The sage Maitreya describes the process of creation in reply to Vidura's question. Sri Shuka continued, Vidura, the foremost of the Kurus, whose heart was purified by devotion to the imperishable Lord Sri Krishna, approached the sage Maitreya of fathomless wisdom, who was staying at Haridwara, the great way of the celestial river Ganga, so called because the river descends into the plains at this point, and gratified by his good disposition and other virtues, asked him the following question. Vidura said, people perform actions for the sake of happiness, but they neither attain happiness nor succeed in ending their sorrow thereby. On the other hand, they undergo suffering again and again as a result of those acts.
Mm.
Therefore, O worshipful sage, be pleased to tell me what is advisable under the circumstances. Verse number 3. The blessed devotees of Lord Janardhana Sri Krishna move about in this world just in order to shower their grace on men who have through ill luck turned their face away from Sri Krishna and are given to unrighteousness and are therefore extremely miserable. Verse 4. Be pleased to point out to me, O foremost saint, that blessed path by following which people succeed in propitiating the Lord, who in his turn settles in their heart, purified by devotion, and bestows on them the most ancient wisdom, which brings with it the realization of truth. Kindly also tell me what kind of deeds are performed by the Lord, who is the ruler of all the three worlds and absolutely independent when he descends into the world of matter. How, though actionless, he brought forth this universe at the dawn of creation. How, having established it on a firm footing, he provides a means of subsistence for all created beings. And how again, having withdrawn it into the cavity of his heart and refraining from all activity, he retires into communion with his Yogamaya. And finally, how, having created this universe over again and entered it as the inner controller, the Lord of all masters of yoga, though one, appears in diverse forms. Verse 7. Also recount to me the exploits that he performs as a mere sport for the well being of the Brahmanas, the cows, and the gods in the course of his various avatars or descents into the world of matter. My mind does not feel sated even though I go on hearing the nectar like stories of Sri Krishna, the crest jewel of those enjoying fair renown.
Yeah. Mind will never be satisfied for the real devotee. He doesn't say that I've finished something. As we say, oh, I've read now. I have read? No. Then you have not understood at all. You see, one needs to read it again and again and again and again and never be satisfied at all. How can you be satisfied with Lord's stories? Huh? That means we have not understood at all. Understand? That's what why he sits Uddhava alone. See, there are so many of them at there, but he chooses Uddhava alone. Over to you.
Yes, Guruji.
Yeah.
Verse number 8. Pray, further tell me, O chief of the Brahmanas, with what principles that suzerain lord of all the worlds created the different worlds and their guardian deities, as well as the dark regions lying beyond the mountain called Loka Loka, wherein appear all classes of beings entrusted with different duties, and how the self existent Lord Narayana, the maker of the universe, endowed all created beings with a distinctive disposition, activity, form, and name. Verse 10. I have often heard, O worshipful sage, from the lips of the sage Vyasa about the duties of the higher, twice born, as well as the lower classes of men. But I am now fed up with all other dharmas, conducive as they are to trivial joys, and find my sole delight in the stream of nectar that flows from the stories of Sri Krishna.
Yeah.
Verse 11. As a matter of fact, who can be sated with the stories of Sri Krishna, whose feet are the abode of all sanctity, which are sung with praise by seers like Narada, in the assemblies of holy men like you? For, entering the cavity of a man's ears through his stories, the Lord cuts asunder the bond of attachment to his home, which throws one into the whirlpool of metempsychosis. Verse 12. It was with the intention of recounting the Lord's virtues that your friend, the sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vedavyasa, composed the Mahabharata. For even there, while apparently dwelling on the pleasures of sense, the mind of human beings is ultimately drawn towards the stories of Sri Hari. Verse 13. The attraction thus generated for the stories of Sri Hari when it grows creates aversion in the mind of a devout man for other things. Nay, it speedily puts an end to all the sorrows of the man who has tasted the joy flowing, uh, who has tasted the joy flowing from the constant remembrance of Sri Hari's feet.
Yep.
Verse 14. I deplore those ignorant men who have a dislike for the stories of Sri Hari due to their sins and therefore deserve to be pitied even by the pitiable. The deity presiding over time cut short every moment their allotted span of life, engaged as they are all the time in idle talk, idle activities, and idle thought. Verse 15. Therefore, O Maitreya, son of Kusharu, friend of the afflicted, even as a bee gathers honey from the flowers, so be pleased to extract the essence of all stories in the shape of the stories of Sri Hari, the bestower of blessedness and the abode of sacred renown, and relate the same to me for my good. Also, kindly recount to me the superhuman feats performed by the Lord when he descended into the world of matter, assuming his energy known by the name of Maya for the sake of creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. Verse number 17, Sri Shuka continued. Questioned thus by Vidura for the supreme good of men, the worshipful sage Maitreya, the son of Kusharu, addressed him as follows, showing great honor to him. Verse 18. Maitreya said, O pious Vidura, you have put mankind under a deep obligation by asking me this excellent question. Your mind is already fixed on the Lord who is beyond sense perception, and your fame will thus be spread far and wide in this world. Vidura, it is not to be wondered at that you should have thus captivated Sri Hari, the Lord of the universe, by your exclusive devotion, begotten as you are by no less a personage than the sage Badrayana or Vedavyasa. Verse 20. You are no other than the worshipful Yama, the punisher of all creatures, descended as a result of the imprecation pronounced by the sage Mandavya from the loins of the sage Vyasa, son of Satyavati, through the maidservant and concubine of the latter's deceased uterine brother Vichitravirya, who was also born of Satyavati. Moreover, you are ever beloved of the Lord as well as of his devotees. That is why, while departing from this world, the Lord commanded me to teach you wisdom. I therefore now proceed to recount in due order the Lord's pastimes, unfolded by his Yogamaya wonderful divine potency for the creation, preservation, and destruction of the universe.
You see the way in which it has been told, and you can clearly make out it can never be a story. It is the truth. You see, when they say all this, very clearly they are saying, and repeatedly, see, the names are saying, names are all not the common names. See, all the names are, if you see, Vidura or anything, any name, Kusuru or that sort of thing, they are all different, and we can clearly make out it was there, and it is not a cock and bull story. It is not at all a story. It is the real one, and we don't have that punya to trust this and enjoy this. You see, you can clearly see the story after story is being told, and the names and everything, and then how the Lord has manifested at various places and everything. These have been told. How can you say that these are all cock and bull stories? Because our Durga, huh? Buddhi and Durdasha also, both. See? So we are immersed in our what we call rubbish. We can call it as a rubbish only, thoughts and rubbish ideas and rubbish. This one also, what we call analysis and so-called science and so-called. So when you clearly see that all this is what these are the truths, what we call mythology, and I think, that is the truth. This is the truth. The mythology is you are living mythology now. You are living mythology. You have zero idea of anything, and even when it is told and when it is revealed to you in so much of detail, you still think that this is stories. No, it is not stories. It is the real one. Then, if you think this is the story, then the Lord Himself is also a story. Existence of the Lord itself becomes a story for you. Okay? This is the thing. So it is vital for us to trust and believe and love these things and enjoy these stories. Enjoy these what we call stories. Enjoy these things and also get our own realizations. So if you do not want Punarjanma, this becomes most vital to study and be there in this only. Immerse ourselves into this. Like the ancients did that 200 years ago, they all did that. The so-called outsiders came, attacked, and gave us some rubbish things called science and this and that and everything like that. And we are now engrossed in our own wrongly conceived ideas, which we call science and everything like that. Wrongly conceived, everything is wrongly conceived. Because it is very difficult for you to say these things are false. See? Over to you, Janaki.
Koti Koti pranams to you, Param Pujya Guruji, Devis and Mahatmas. Let us read these again and come back for more. We'll go to Kritagnyata Prarthana now.
प्रार्थना करते हैं देश और धर्म के लिए, प्रार्थना करते हैं भारत की स्त्रियों के लिए और उनके विकास के लिए, प्रार्थना करते हैं हमारे अन्नदाता किसानों के लिए तथा उन सभी के लिए जिनके श्रम से हमारे पात्र में प्रसाद आता है। ये प्रसाद जो हमें 3 से 5 बार मिलता है, भूख हो न हो तो भी मिल जाता है, इससे हमारा बौद्धिक, शारीरिक और मानसिक पोषण हो। हम निरहंकारी बने, दूसरों के बारे में सोचें और हमारे में क्षमा भाव जगे। इसी के साथ प्रार्थना करते हैं भारत के तथा विश्व भर में कई ऐसे लोगों के लिए जिनको शायद 2 वक्त का प्रसाद मिले ना मिले पता नहीं होता। उनकी सारी आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति हो, उनका विकास हो और उनके विकास से देश और विश्व का विकास हो। प्रार्थना करते हैं भारत के 17 से 21 वर्ष की आयु के सभी युवक और युवतियों के लिए नीति द्वारा यह अनिवार्य किया जाए कि उनको सेना में प्रशिक्षण मिले, जिससे कि वो अच्छे नागरिक बने। प्रार्थना करते हैं भारत के सेना बल के लिए सीमाएं बंद हो, घुसपैठ न हो, आतंकवाद न हो और हमारे जवानों के प्राण व्यर्थ में न जाएं। उनका आर्थिक और पारिवारिक जीवन हर्ष, उल्लास और विकास से भरपूर रहे। प्रार्थना करते हैं हमारे पुलिस बल के लिए नीति द्वारा उनके वेतन 10 गुना बढ़ाए जाए, उनकी जैविक अवस्था में सुधार लाया जाए, उनकी क्षमताओं में बढ़ोतरी लाई जाए और वो सदैव न्याय और धर्म का संस्थापन करते रहें। प्रार्थना करते हैं हमारे परम पूज्य गुरुजी द्वारा संकल्पित सारे कार्यों के लिए। ये सारे ही संकल्प जैसे निवृत्ति, गुरुकुल, गीता वितरण इत्यादि का उद्देश्य है भारत के कई करोड़ों अच्छे गरीबों को लाभ पहुंचाना। ये सारे ही संकल्प बड़े से बड़े पैमाने पर साकार हो और इसका लाभ देश के कोने कोने तक पहुंचे। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि इस देश के शासक इस देश को उसकी खोई हुई संस्कृति की ओर ले जा सके। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि इस देश के हर जिले में कम से कम 2001 एकड़ के फैलाव वाले महाजलाशय बनाए जाए, जिससे कि वहां भरपूर जल रहे। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि इस देश के हर जिले में कम से कम 200 सौर शक्ति से संचालित ट्रामें चलाई जाए। इनके माध्यम से हर एक गांव को जिला मुख्यालय से जोड़ा जाए, जिससे कि यातायात में सुविधा हो, पर्यावरण भी स्वच्छ रहे और व्यय भी कम हो। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि ईश्वर हमारे परम पूज्य गुरुजी को 120 वर्ष का स्वास्थ्य से परिपूर्ण आयुष दें और गुरुजी सदैव हमारा मार्गदर्शन करते रहें। प्रार्थना करते हैं कि ईश्वर सभी सत्संगियों को, सभी विभूतियों को और उनके परिवारजनों को स्वास्थ्य से परिपूर्ण लंबी आयुष दे और सभी गुरुजी द्वारा दिखाए गए पथ पर चलें। सारा श्रेय गुरुजी को जाता है। आज का जो भी पुण्य है उनके श्री चरणों में समर्पित करते हुए देश और धर्म के लिए प्रार्थना करते हैं। तथास्तु, तथास्तु, तथास्तु।
प्रार्थना करते हैं देश के प्रत्येक विद्यालयों एवं संस्थानों में दिन में 3 बार संपूर्ण वंदे मातरम गाया जाए, जिससे कि नागरिकों में देशभक्ति की भावना जागृत हो। तथास्तु। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। वंदे मातरम। भारत माता की जय। जय हिंद।